Welcome back to Mr. Obsolete's Vintage Homesteading. Today's video is going to be covering a number of things. The first thing is we're going to be getting our little Oliver OC3 crawler over by the shop so we can start working on it. And the second part is going to be about a new method of treating our wood handles on our tools. And the third part is going to be about getting a stump ready to burn out. And the fourth part will be a surprise ending. Well, we've got it pretty close to the garage here, so get the lawn mowed and we'll put it up here and start working on it. Well, since we got the little Oliver crawler over by the garage, all we're doing is waiting for starter parts. We'll get busy on that, and the weather's been cooperating. So this part of the video we're going to be doing some maintenance. And we're going to be doing our wood handles. Even though I treated these with boiled linseed oil early part of winter and stuff, they've dried out over the winter, so they all need to be serviced again. We're going to try a different technique though. Before I've just wiped them down and called it good, but what we're going to do is we're going to heat the boiled linseed oil up to make it penetrate better. So we're going to be using our old vintage Coleman stove here, and I really like using these. They have a few drawbacks, but you have to know how to maintain them. The other one is that the fuel's expensive, but many times when the power's been out, we've used these to cook on, and the lanterns we use for light. Nice thing about the lanterns too is that they don't put out any toxic fumes, so you can use them in the house. So anyway, what we're going to do here, I'll just talk briefly about what you need to do to these after they've been sitting for a while. And the number one problem that people don't realize on these, why they don't work after they've been sitting and stuff, is inside the fuel cap here there's a small rubber seal, and over time it can get hard and get cracks in it and won't seal properly. The The other one is that the surface that it seats on, if these things are not stored properly and stuff, they get little rust bits on the top surface here. So every spring when I get this out, it usually has a few pits and stuff, so we'll show you how to service it. So what we're going to do is take some paper towel here, stuff it down in the hole. You want to have it just below the surface. Then use a real fine file to dress it. Now you can see I've got a nice clean surface all the way around that's nice and flat. And I'll just finish it with some sandpaper. Then we'll pull this out, point it down so if there's any debris in there it'll come out and won't get in the tank. Now, these run on what's called white gas. It's like gasoline was in the teens. It's just pure gasoline with no additives. Should be the cheapest thing in the world, but Coleman charges a lot of money for it. This is the pump that you use to pressurize the tank. And right here is a small hole. And that's so you can oil the diaphragm in there, which is made out of leather. Later ones use a neoprene, but this is pretty old, so put that in there. Spin it around to get the oil all the way around, and push it down in. There's a little lever here too that's important. When you're getting ready to fire it up, you lift this up, allows more fuel in, and then when its flame gets kind of dirty looking and stuff, or flickers a little bit, you turn it down. And how these things work, there's a needle valve in here and a little teeny tiny hole here in the end, so the fuel comes out, sprays in there and comes through a loop and comes back and is on fire. This part of the tube here fits in a place where the flame actually comes around and heats this up to vaporize the fuel, and that's why you can lean it out when it's hot. So we'll get this put on and be right back. Okay, now what we're going to do is open this up about a turn. There's a little hole in the end, you put your thumb over that, and then you start pumping. And depending on how much wear is in the system, it might take 30 to 60 pumps. Build up some pressure, then you want to rotate that to close the valve, like so. Then, so we get the valve up and we'll open this up. And you see how nice and easy that lit. So when the flame is like this, and orange, means you got more fuel than you need. We'll open it up to get it hot. And it starts to warm up and stuff, it'll turn into a blue-white flame and you can hardly see it. That's when you turn the lever down there. There's a little bit of extra fuel got to burn off there, so it takes about a minute to warm up. So we'll be back here in a bit. Okay, I'm going to put some boiled linseed oil in here. I'm going to do it when it's away from the flame. I don't know how flammable this stuff is. If you look here closely, you can see just a very little teeny bit of orange flame. It's almost perfectly clean. So now we'll put this on. We don't want to get this super hot. We want to get it so it doesn't burn you and stuff, but it's pretty thick. And so I think the heating will make it soak in better, because when I was doing an axe handle, I've been using a torch on it to darken the wood up and stuff, and the wood was warm, and boy, the oil just soaked in really nicely. Then another person had said that they use turpentine mixed with it, and I've not tried that yet, but this old rake we picked up at a junk sale for $1, and it's really dry. I think what I'll do is I'll do half of it the way I'm doing, and we get some turpentine and do the other half and just see what works best. Let me talk about what I use this old stove for. I use it for making fire starters. This is part of an egg crate, and then we have sawdust inside from when I'm cutting the trees up, and lint from the dryer, and wax from the candle junk stores and stuff, but they were closed for a long time, so we couldn't get any wax. And I did a video on making these bricks out of shredded paper and stuff, and for heating your house, and they're totally worthless for that. But what I did is mix some wood shavings in with it. The original ones are just straight paper, and they just poof and they were gone instantly, and they don't put out any heat. These don't put a lot more heat out either, really, but what I do is I put a little bit of used motor oil on them, let them soak in, and keep them in a tin for fire starters. Works really good. This is best though. This really is the fastest and best, but this way you have virtually zero cost. Yeah, it looks like it's starting to get warm here. We'll turn the flame down here a bit. That smoke is from some wax that I had on the grates and down in the stove when I was making fire starters. So anyway, these old stoves and Coleman lanterns and ones made by others have a really fascinating history. I think at some point I'll do a full video on them. I'll show you how to totally service them and some of the history on them and stuff like that. And like I say, sometimes we've been without power for 3 weeks, or sometimes even worse than that. And these have saved our bacon. So I think that's pretty good. I'll turn this off and be right back. Well, last fall when we were doing the handles, I had a piece of an old rag here like this. I keep it in a plastic tub here and keep it sealed and stuff. It's still flexible, still got some linseed oil on it. Being Mr. Thrifty, I don't have to buy anything new each year. So we'll put a little oil in here. Now this I found at a junk store. It's a pretty nice shape, but on the very top here there's a slight crack in it. And wood's got some slight cracks here. Just wasn't taken care of properly. What I'm going to do on this, spread this apart a little bit and put some glue down here, and then drill a hole through it and use a screw and pull it tight. It should last forever. But anyway, I recommend using gloves. I've seen people do it without, but I haven't been able to find out too much on the composition of this stuff. Some of them say it has solvents in it to make it soak into the wood, but nothing on the can say anything, and some say it has lead in it. There again, I've looked trying to find info on it and I can't find anything, so just best to do it so you're not putting any toxins in your system. Yeah, this heat really makes it soak in good. And you just want to kind of work it in there. Yeah, that works much better than using the cold liquid. You know, like I say, this is really super dry, so I'm going to use half of it with this, with the linseed oil. Boy, look at it, just soaks in like crazy. And that is really dry. This is going to require a bunch of coats over a period of weeks and stuff to soak in, otherwise start to use it, it's just going to break off. This is really dry wood. But yeah, this heat really helps. So we'll do the top half here at a different time. Use the solvent to get it to soak in the wood and see what it does. Okay, well, this is an old rake that we had. We did a video on it where the tip had gotten rotten and broken off, and so we cut it off and fixed it up, tapered it down, fit it down in here. And I've been soaking it pretty good, but you can see how dry it is just sitting over the winter again, even though I'd put like 4 or 5 coats. So I need to be more diligent about keeping up on this stuff. But anyway, this wood was really dry, but yeah, see, that's not too bad underneath there. It's not soaking in really quickly, so that means it's not super dry yet. Yeah, that's nice. This fared pretty well. It still needs gone through, but this originally had varnish on it. There again, we did a video on this where I stripped the varnish off and went through, and the wood had just barely started to crack on it and stuff, and by putting this on it and stuff, it stopped totally. So it's in really nice shape. It's going to last us a long time. Yep, so heating that oil up really works well. It's going to be my new way of doing this. So anyway, our next part of the video, we're going to be out getting another stump ready to burn out. We'll have a little chainsaw working there and put the burn barrel on and load it up and burn it out. Okay, well, here's what they look like. They've only sat for a day. You can see it's soaked in really good, so using that method where I heat the linseed oil really soaks in, because all of these leave nothing on your hand after a day, and it's really soaked into the wood nicely. So that's the way I'm going to do it from now on. I'm going to try some turpentine too, like one guy suggested, but we'll see what happens. But the heat really pulls that in. I mean, it's just really nice. Where I've done it when it's cold before, it takes about 3 or 4 days or a week to soak in before you get ick on your hand. But this stuff here is perfect. So anyway, that's it. Well, for this part of the video, we're going to get ready to burn this stump out, which we tried to burn out previously with not too much success. The reason for that was that a suggestion from a viewer said that if you put a barrel around this and then a bigger one around the outside, and then put your charcoal and wood in here, it'll burn this down, which it sort of did. Left a lot of charcoal, which he said it would, but really didn't burn it out, because I originally left it about this tall, and I took the chainsaw and cut grooves in it all the way across, and of course you can see the ground level is down below it, and it just stopped there. It just wouldn't even, I put charcoal on it and stuff to help burn it out. But other stumps that I've taken out like that, I usually cut down into them and hollow them out somewhat and put in charcoal and stuff, and it helps burn. But the way I've been doing it works best so far, and that's to excavate underneath it and then put in charcoal in there, and then put the barrel on and put some charcoal around that and some wood around it, and then fill up the barrel like we've done on previous videos. So what I'm going to do on this one, I'm going to take the chainsaw and cut these roots off first, and then I'm going to cut the top off here before that, the ways down, and then I'm going to cut into it and put some slots in it like I did on the last burn video. So we'll be back when I got the saw ready. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is cut this root out first, so I got clearance in here, so when I come across I won't be cutting into this sideways. So anyway, pretty good sized root. Well, there you can see it cut pretty good. till I hit that rock down there. Now I gotta sharpen the chain, but anyway, I'll be back here in a bit. Well, here's a little culprit. There's where we hit the rock. This thing was up underneath the center of the root system there. And I'd excavated all underneath it and stuff, and then when I just barely cut it here, but boy, that just chain went dull instantly. That chain is pretty much at the end of its life. I'm going to give it one more filing, and then I'm going to replace the chain and the clutch drum and service the bar. Need some TLC there. So anyway, I'll cut out the last root here and do a little more crisscross here, get the saw warmed up, and be right back. Well, that one needs a sharpening too. So anyway, I'll finish cutting this up, and then when I get ready to finish up getting ready to burn, we'll be back. Okay, well, we've got the stump all cleaned out around it. Got cross cuts in the top here. Our next job is going to be putting charcoal around the bottom. So what we're going to do, take the biggest pieces and put around the bottom there. So I'll get these sorted out and be back. Well, we're ready to go. So as the next rainstorm comes in, which should be a couple of days, we'll light it off. Get rid of another stump. See you in a minute. Well, for the last part of the video, I'm going to talk about our little experience going to a swap meet. It's the first one we've had in about 2 years. And unfortunately it wasn't real big, but there was some interesting stuff there. But I almost didn't find anything, but at the last minute I did. This axe. The guy had a whole bunch of axes there, but they all kind of just generic, no-name, common axes and stuff. This one just kind of stood out because it's not a pattern that's normal to our area. And I looked it up in the books and stuff. It looks like it's a Michigan pattern. And only markings on it, there's an M and then 4. Of course, it's 4-pound head. But the M stands for Man Edge Tool Company as far as I can tell. And I cleaned it up, didn't have much rust on it or anything, needs sharpening and whatnot, and got a little bit of overstrike damage here, but the thing is different too is the handle is oak. It's very stringy and tough. You know, all the other axes I have hickory, but anyway, I'll clean this up and do measurements on it. I'm going to be doing a next video here before too awfully long. So let's see, the overall length is 35. And the pole is 1.5 inches, 8 inches, and 4.5. Has a real nice balanced feel to it and stuff. And I've used my hammer to see what the steel's like and stuff, and I'm gonna think this is probably just a user grade axe. It doesn't have the best steel in it, but it's okay. But anyway, I'll get this all cleaned up and we'll show it in an upcoming video. So that's it for today. All the fun things we do around here on the Vintage Homestead. See you soon.